I am super excited today to be doing something different. I have teamed up with some of my talented art educator friends, Sandra Magia, Amaryllis Henderson, and Liz Kohler Brown, to share some of our all time favorite tips on creating a collection for art for product. Each of these industry professionals and myself are going to offer one tip on making a better, stronger, more marketable art collection. So stay tuned for one of my favorite tips. And then I can't wait for you to check out the other videos we made to get some additional expert perspectives. If you're new to me and my channel, before I dive into my favorite advice on creating a strong, marketable collection, I want to introduce myself. I'm Elizabeth Silver, and I'm a professional service pattern designer. Over the last 20 years, I've worked as a staff textile designer for major American brands, a freelancer, and a licensed artist creating art and patterns for all sorts of products from dinnerware to greeting cards. On this channel and through my classes, I teach creatives the clear steps to designing marketable art for products, finding clients, pitching their designs, and building a sustainable creative business with confidence. One topic that I continue to discuss on this channel and even have an in-depth class on is creating marketable work through designing in collections. Collections help you as an artist create stronger work and show off your understanding of how art and product work together when you pitch to potential clients and licensing partners. But not everyone is a collections maverick, and today I want to help you with one of my favorite tips. When I consider what makes a collection strong, the biggest thing that stands out is that a collection needs consistency. Style, palette, and theme all should be aligned throughout designs in a collection. Consistent style in a single collection may seem obvious, but this is actually harder than it sounds, and maybe you're not doing it. So today, I want to briefly dive into how to make sure you're staying consistent through multiple designs. So here are some factors that will make your work more consistent. The first is you generally want the same brushes and textures used throughout all the designs in your collections. When I show examples of mistakes, I often have to create something because I've been doing this a long time and I don't often do some of the things I see beginners doing. But know that I am not perfect. And this wasn't that long ago that I created this collection, which is still in my portfolio unedited. At first glance, it looks okay. It's seasonal wall art, it's fun, hand lettering, it's great. But let's look a little bit closer because I had clearly gotten a new set of Illustrator brushes. As we dive in, you can see that I used tons of different styles. You can see the shading on the pumpkins and the mugs are this kind of crosshatch. The line work is this dotted broken line. The spice is this dry brush, and the pumpkin season is this weathered twill look. So it's all over the place. And it's okay to have a few different things, but this is a little bit too wild and doesn't actually work that well together. You also want to make sure that your line work is consistent in style and weight. So this is a collection that I did in maybe 2016. And I created the hero pattern first. And the line work was all hand-drawn and scanned in. And then I overlaid flat shapes for the color in the background. So this is a sweet pattern. After I created this, I remember a windows pattern that I had done previously. And I thought it would work well together because there's a lot of windows in these buildings. I thought it could be a really cool thing. So I recolored it. Now, if I had stopped here, you can see that these two patterns are really different. They don't work that well together, even though the colors are consistent. The line work is very different. The first one is really delicate, and the second is pretty bold. Thankfully, I had already been a designer for over a decade at that point, and I knew that the window wouldn't work. I still like the concept as a coordinate, so I reworked it to make it more consistent. I used some of the same ideas, but I redrew it, and this fits much better with the original hero print. Now, this is something I see all the time from new designers. They draw 1 to 3 motifs and then they shrink it and use both sizes throughout. So I have 3 different main butterflies. There's also little orange butterflies in the background, but 3 different styles of main butterflies. And I've shrunk them and blown them up, and you see very tiny line work and you see very thick bold line work. When you shrink something down, you should stay consistent with the line work. So you should redraw. You want to simplify. If your biggest butterfly only has a few little accents, then your smallest butterfly should have almost no accents. And the line work should be equally thick throughout. So this is what my actual design was. Like I said, sometimes I make up examples, and you can see that I have smaller and smaller butterflies, but the line work is pretty consistent throughout. We can also look at the floral on the right-hand side and see that some of the bigger leaves have a lot of veins and some of the very small leaves have much less veins. So I didn't just draw one leaf and shrink it to make it fit every size on the vine. I redrew the leaf and simplified as needed. So I recommend that you do that when you're doing your work. Keep things consistent. The third thing you're going to want to look for consistency with is shading style. In early drafts of one of my collections, I had designed these 2 prints. Don't mind the color. I promise I make it better in the end. But notice the shading on the hibiscus. Not only is it more detailed than the rest of the foliage, which could be a specific style choice as long as I did it, again, consistently throughout the whole collection, but look at how it is compared to the second print. So you're seeing this detailed shading on the flowers, but then if you go to the second print, you don't see any detailed shading at all. Everything is really very simple. So this was my fix. I simplified the hibiscus and decided to stick with that. And by the way, this was my final collection in better colors, which got licensed for both gift bags and fabrics. And you can see by looking at this whole collection how I added texture, which I use throughout. So there's texture in the background of the coordinates, and it's hard to see because they are a little bit shrunk down, but there is texture in the background of the main print as well. Finally, if you're using type or lettering, you want to make sure that you are consistent there. I would aim to use 1 to 2 fonts or hand lettering styles throughout a collection. Something like this, for example, is pretty inconsistent. If this was flags or signs for your home, it's all over the place. And yes, it's true that someone might only buy one sign, so they don't necessarily need it to match. But just looking at this on a page gives me a headache. It just doesn't make sense. But when I put all these together, you can see how consistent and bold this is. It tells a much more unified story. There we go. Those are the things you can look for in your designs to see if your work is consistent. I want to add here that yes, simpler patterns may not be totally consistent. For example, you may not even have line work in a ditzy pattern. But if you're not sure if a collection is working together, the 2 top offenders are style or technique and color. So aim to find ways to tighten those things up. I hope this video helps you make a really strong marketable collection, but I am not the only one who loves collections and has incredible advice on the subject. Remember, I promised you 4 tips? Next, be sure to hop over to Amaryllis Henderson's channel, where she'll be helping you bring cohesion to your old and new work. I'll link to it in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe to all our channels and videos as you move through the tips, because these friends are all such talented and successful artists and educators, and their videos can help you develop your creative work and career just like mine can.